talk about 5-year plan, we talk about growing, we talk about learning, we talk about improving. How do we approach this? How can someone, let's say your boss, your manager, even people at home, how can they look at you and they say that what can I expect out of these people? If people say, is this look at you and say that okay, fine, this is what I expect out of it. How does that come on? Now, this is basically how do you set up an identity? I'll tell you, typically, when we say that this is what we want to achieve, when I told you that you need to create your resume from now, thinking 5 years on, okay, and you say that this is the resume that I need to create. The first thing that we start doing is, what is the salary I will earn? Where will I be? What kind of house will I have? We start thinking in those lines. We start creating targets of what we want to achieve. Instead, what we forget is that we forget of what is the identity that we want to build. Target, the outcome that we want, please understand this carefully. हमें जो बनना है, हमें जो अचीव करना है, वो हमारा बाहरी outer layer है. That I want to have this kind of salary every month. I want to, let's say, settle down in this country, this city. I want to have this kind of a car. I want to have this kind of a house. Right? ये सब क्या बाहरी चीजें हैं. We always try to chase outcomes. This is very important. But what if you miss the target? What if you are not able to get that salary? What if you are not able to get that house? Because in these things, there are things which are in your control and there are some things which are out of your control. Not every outcome in life is in our control, right? We will try our best, but not everything is in our control. So what do we need to build towards? What are the things? Then we come to those things which are in our control. That is, we will create a system. We will follow a process to reach that outcome. क्योंकि प्रोसेस हमारे कंट्रोल की चीज है. हम जो करना चाहते हैं वो हमारे ऊपर ही हमें क्या करना है. If I want to become healthy, if I want to look like Hrithik Roshan, or if I want to look like Deepika Padukone or Disha Patani, I may or may not be like her, but at least I can. The roadmap to be like them is in my hand. Then it is not upon me if I become a celebrity or not. When I start working on the process, every single day I go to the gym, or let's say every single day, if I want to buy a house, I save on some money, right? Or if I want to become the vice president, so every single day I'm reading books, I'm enrolling in some courses. What is all this? It's a process. आप सुबह उठते हो, ब्रश करते हो, नाश्ता करते हो, क्या है वो? That is a process. It becomes a part of your life. It becomes a habit. You don't have to think कि अरे भाई मुझे आज पैसे बचाना है, अरे भाई मुझे आज ये कोर्स पढ़ना है. I read 4 to 5 books every single month, which means in a year, what is that? About 50-60 books. I don't keep a target of reading 50-60 books in a year. That's not my target. My target is reading 20 to 25 to 40 pages every single day. Break it down into smaller pieces. If you look at life as a big mountain, you will find it challenging. Break it down to the smallest possible component and then say, this is what I want to do daily. Then keep your head down and do it daily. And suddenly after 1 year, you will see that because of the daily input, you reached a certain level which is putting you ahead of many other people in life. You will suddenly see, oh, you have saved so much money. You will suddenly see, oh, I have become so much knowledgeable. Suddenly people are respecting me. And then what has that created? That has built my identity. Now people expect things out of me, not from what I say, People expect things out of me, out of what I am. Just imagine people, your parents, do they come and check with you, अरे बेटा तुमसे ये हो पाएगा या नहीं हो पाएगा? और do they come and tell you तू ये कर या तू मत कर? क्यों बोलते हैं? Because in their minds, we have established an identity. In the minds of our loved ones, or maybe if you're working for an organization for a long time, we have established an identity in their minds and they know what are the expectations. So when you say that I am unable to deliver to my seniors' expectations, what kind of identity have you built? That is the question you need to ask yourself. Are you getting the point? Outcome based habits are therefore, I want to lose 20 kgs, or an organization will say we want to increase the sales by 10%. Is this the focus? Instead, what is the process that you're creating to lose 20 kgs? What is the process that you are creating in your organization to increase your sales by 10%? And what is that identity creating? What is that identity creating for you as a person? That going to the gym and running a marathon or dieting has identified you as a healthy person, because your target is not to lose 20 kgs. The target is to be a healthy person. The target is not only to increase sales by 10%. वो शायद आज हो जाएगा, कल नहीं होगा, फिर परसों होगा. Inconsistent है. But what is your identity? Your identity is to be a unique product or service have a unique product or service feature in the market. So create identity based habits. And that is how you manage expectations of others. That is how people look at you. What you want to achieve versus what you want to become. Proving your identity to yourself is far more important than good results. If I ask you today, what is your identity? How do you see yourself? I know what my identity is. I know how I see myself. And my identity is my routine, which is getting up in the morning at 7:30, dropping my daughter to school, doing a run, doing a jog, walking out, coming home. While having my breakfast, I will read a book, few pages. While doing my jog, while doing my run, I listen to audiobooks. Then I sit for my work till evening. Then I sit down to create content. That is my entire day. That's my identity. People say na that अरे ये तो busy आदमी है, ये तो free आदमी है. That is the identity that you have created for others. Whose control is it? Your identity is in your control. Outcome will not be in your control, but creating identity is in your control. Can you create your identity very easily? There are two things which are important to create identity. One is your time, right? And the other is results. आप कितना टाइम देते हो और आप क्या रिजल्ट लाते हो? Based on that is your identity, right? Anything. Even having a good relationship, even trying to create a identity as a good parent. I'm not saying it should be only money, work. Even the identity of creating, becoming a good parent. There are two factors, right? Your time and the results that come out in that time. हम क्या सोचते हैं, आज जिम जाएंगे तो ऐसा चलेगा, right or wrong? Is it not the way how we think? आज मैंने जिम स्टार्ट किया, मेहनत करूंगा, सब ऊपर जाएगा. What happens? Reality. If you see this curve, this orange curve, if you see this till this point, okay, where the curve is, the line is not even gone upwards. आपने time डाला, कुछ नहीं हो रहा है. What happens over here? जिम में जा रहे हो, मेहनत कर रहे हो, ट्रेडमिल भाग रहे हो, वेट कम नहीं हो रहा है. किताबें पढ़ रहे हो, कुछ समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. बॉस मेहनत बहुत कर रहे हो, बॉस नोटिस नहीं कर रहा है. Then what starts happening? What starts happening then after you put that time in? This curve, this area Can you see this area? The difference between what we expect and what is reality. That area is called as valley of disappointment. We are on this red line of what to expect, of what we expect, our expectations. The reality is that we are still on the ground. And there is that gap. That gap is known as the valley of disappointment. And then we quit without realizing that slowly this graph will take off. There's no rocket science to get results, to deliver results. Once you have chosen, of course, first you need to choose that this is the right thing. You can't be in a loss making project or something of that sort. There is no rocket science. Trust me, I have read 100, 200 books till today. I have seen people who are successful, who are not successful. The only difference that I see amongst people, okay, is basically the effort that they put to stick to something. And then suddenly it's like magic. And everyone else says, अरे भाई जादू हो गया, कैसे होने लग गया ये? Then people start speculating. कह रहे कुछ तो लफड़ा किया रहेगा इसने, कुछ तो गलत किया होगा इसने, right? People forget the effort that people have put in the past. People forget this value of disappointment. You give up in the value of disappointment. You start asking the question, am I the right fit? You begin to question your identity in the organization. A new joinee joins. You guys are fairly new, fresh in life. You join in and you feel that, nothing is working. Am I at the right place? Am I at the right area? You start questioning the process. Am I doing it the right way? And then you ask, how long should I do it? Everyone has seen an ice cube. बर्फ का टुकड़ा, बर्फ देखा है सबने. अब आइस को, you remove the ice from the chiller, from the freezer, and if you keep it in an air conditioned environment, will the ice melt? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But then you slowly increase the temperature. Let's say you bring the temperature from 20 degrees to 25 degrees. And then again the ice is not melting. And then you wait. And then you wait from 25 to 30 degrees. Till the ice has not melted. Till the ice has not melted. And then you slowly increase the temperature to 32 degrees. And now you see that the ice is melting up. You have to wait for the right temperature where the ice melts. Now, can you think of any such person whom you have seen who has waited for success? I mean, I'm a cricket fan, so I always look at Saurav Ganguly. Why Saurav Ganguly? Because when he joined and he started playing cricket, he had a very bad start to his career. But did he give up? He joined the team. Everyone said that he had attitude issues, he had ego issues, lot of bad media, people talking bad about him, XYZ things. But did he give up? If he had given up, how did he retire? How did he retire? He is one of the principal architects of the growth of the Indian cricket team. Aparna is saying Wright brothers, absolutely right. The failures that the Wright brothers had, if they had given up in not, they were the ones who invented the airplane and they crashed so many times. If they crashed so many times and if they gave up at that point of time, can you imagine maybe possible that we wouldn't have had air travel at all? So that is how you need to work. You need to understand what is the plateau. This entire thing is known as the plateau of latent potential. You need to wait for that latent potential to spring up in your life. Everyone knows the story of Apple. Okay. This was a brand who wanted to be the number one brand in the world. They had a very small market share. Okay. In 2020, In the fourth quarter of 2020, they just had 14% of the PC market and only 21% of the smartphone market. And they were very happy with that market share. Earlier, before this, they had a market share of only 2% in the PC market, just 2%. But even with that 2%, they were extremely happy because they did want their product to be in everyone's hand. They wanted the product to be something which people can, feel a status symbol, right? And they worked on having a very unique design. They always thought highly of design. And this is what the CEO said, that I want to put a ding in the universe. This is the identity that he wanted to create. He was okay with having a low market share, but even then they had a high mind share. And they had this attitude of thinking different. This was the identity. The identity was not, the target that they set was not to, have this much money, make so much profit. They worked on their identity. And this was the outcome. Steve Jobs himself was seen as a counterculture icon. He was not an executive who wore suits and, who wore jackets. How he used to be? He used to be in a black t-shirt and jeans, right? He became an icon for the youth, never dressed. And did you know that Steve Jobs, please read the story about Steve Jobs. He was highly influenced by India. You all might have heard the story that he spent a lot of time in India when, he was asked to leave the Apple company. Then Apple went into losses. And Steve Jobs was in India. He spent a lot of time in the temples out over here and he got a lot of inspiration. He always thought from the Eastern philosophy, unlike that. So he created a very different identity from what was happening around him.